One thing that I guess is clear for all of us is that climate change is actually a reality.
This green little fella on the left here, that's an actual Zeedz.
So that's something that was just a baseline decisions for us that had to be fulfilled, and we couldn't go to some network that is, proof of work, for example.
Just drop us an email, hi@zeedz.io.
Hey guys, Thomas here from Block on Air. Today I'm joined by Sven Junglas and Benjamin Ebner from Zeedz. Sven is CEO and Benjamin is CTO, and they will introduce us to their platform that they built in the past months, weeks, maybe years. So I will just hand it over to Sven and Benjamin. Hey guys, and welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much. I think, Ben, we just dive in and I will share my screen and we tell you guys a little bit more about our lovely little nature-inspired project. So let's start. So Zeedz, it's called our project. Let's grow the future. Maybe we can just start with a little introduction of ourselves before we talk about what we're actually doing. My name is Sven. I'm one of the two co-founders of Zeedz. I'm having the role of a CEO, if you want. My background is more like in the marketing, video production, startup field in Germany, where I spent my last 6 or 7 years before I came to this beautiful project. And with me here today is Ben.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ben. I've been in the blockchain space for some time, and I'm a developer, also technical content writer. So I do love the intersection between anything that comes from educational side, but also writing side, but also coding side. So this is something that I've been doing for the last few years. And I also work at Dapper Labs as a technical content marketing manager. And I'm the CTO of Zeedz, and I've got the technical side of Zeedz covered.
Beautiful.
So, what is Zeedz?
What is Zeedz? Nice question. So basically what we are creating is an NFT collectibles game, blockchain based, obviously. But so when friends of us just are asking us, well, what are we doing exactly? We always try to explain it like this. So imagine a greener, truly meaningful kind of Pokemon game. I think we're all familiar with the Pokemon field in one way or the other. But we're leveling your little creatures funds real world climate projects. So where thanks to blockchain and NFT technology, you, so not Nintendo, but you actually own your Pikachu little creature. And where you can grow and evolve and customize this little creature, we call it the Zeedz. But we come to this later on, and you can increase its value dramatically. And so what we call it, and we came actually up with this kind of term. Zeedz is the first Play-For-Purpose game where you can reduce your global carbon emissions by collecting those little plant-inspired creatures, which we call the Zeedz, and they live as NFTs on an eco-friendly blockchain, and which is super special, and we're super proud of that this is actually working. Ben, you will get into this later. They grow with the real world weather.
Well, so, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. But yeah, Ben, why are we doing this at all?
Yeah, let's probably take one step back. One thing that I guess is clear for all of us is that climate change is actually a reality, and I guess in order to limit global carbon emissions, I think everyone has to participate. And this is like the starting point that we had from Zeedz. I mean, sustainability being something, a very controversial topic in a blockchain space, after all, I think this is why we came in this space also towards this topic at this moment in time. So we know that our world has become neutral by around 2050 in order to hold the 1.5 or let's say below 2 degree goal that was originally planned in the Paris Agreement. But for us, I mean, something that was very clear to us is that we want to motivate carbon offset credits so that people actually are donating or giving funds to projects that are actively working on carbon offsets. However, we always didn't like the point of just, offset and then that's done, offset and it's fine. You can just continue your way of life. Everything will be good as long as you're offset. We don't believe this is the way it works. And this is why, financial resources that we create with Zeedz are only one thing of the whole plan. So a major chunk of the profits that we do from Zeedz, from the game, from in-game purchases, actually go to projects that are taking climate action. But as we said, this is only one point. The actual point that we are trying to aim for is to create awareness and to build knowledge of the climate change phenomena and to motivate companies, individuals, organizations to change their behavior. So this is why we actually combined in-game goals with the knowledge that we want to portray and share. So in order to grow and involve your Zeedle, as Sven will explain in the upcoming slides, in order to achieve that, you have to at least get some knowledge of climate phenomena. And this is basically our combination that we are wanting to do. And this is what makes, in our mind, the idea of a play-for-purpose game. Because here you're playing really for a purpose. And this is why exactly we want to create broad awareness for global warming and actively incentivize a sustainable lifestyle. And as I said, connecting that in-game challenges with real-world weather phenomena and educational content.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. By the way, what you see on all those slides here, like this green little fella on the left here, that's an actual Zeedle. So what we are doing right now is we are creating those hundreds and hundreds of Zeedles. This is an early sketching phase, but it will be more rendered and even more beautiful when it's done.
Who's creating them?
So right now we are a team of 5. So it's Ben and me and 3 more guys, and guys and girls. So they are really like professional designers in our team, and it takes a lot of effort. I mean, we're working on this project, Ben, since February, March this year. To come up with like this real style of those cute little monsters, and that you create this feeling of really like them. There are a lot of monsters, but you have to really like connect to them. And that's what our professional designers are doing right now.
Yeah, it's a hell of work. I can imagine that.
Yeah, definitely. So, and this, so where are we, or like, what is our basic flow right now? So right now we are creating Zeedz version 1, which is the NFT collectible game. We talked about it at least a bit now, but our main, or like, let's say our long-term goal is to create an actual live gameplay experience, but we will get into this later on. Let me just clarify some stuff about this early NFT collectible growing game. So what you will be able to do, obviously, is you can collect those cute little monsters. Here's another one, by the way. Mm-hmm. And obviously, those are all NFTs stored in the blockchain, and they are actually yours and nobody else's. You can grow them with the real world weather. Ben, you will explain this later. So you plant them in the ground and they will grow. They will level up. You will water them, and they will become stronger.
Sorry, would that be like in-game items that you have to purchase, the water and the stuff, or is that something that you explain later on? Or
I will explain this later, but okay. Exactly, I will explain this later on. But obviously, you will need water, and you will need those super magic growing recipes.
Interesting.
But we will get to this. Yeah,
perfect.
And by doing so, you impact the reality. So you're playing a fictional, virtual game, but you're impacting the actual things that are happening here on our planet. So you can collect, grow, and impact beautiful Zeedles, right? On the right, that's a mushroom. So, Ben, the real world weather.
The cool thing about this is that those Zeedles, like basically we all know the category of NFTs, right? Everyone or most of us, have interacted with them. They bought NFTs. So this is something that is, I think, basis for all of our thoughts. Now, what we wanted to do is something that you really own, keep, and that grows with you. So we actually use the real world weather, any location on the world, to grow your Zeedles. How does that work? I mean, the user flow will be explained a bit later, but basically you plant your Zeedle, whatever Zeedle you have, you plant it in a real world location. And this Zeedle will grow accordingly to the weather from this location. So you can see here, you also have to, kind of like think about what you are combining, right? If I have, let's say, a succulent, for example, I wouldn't plant this, somewhere in Northern Europe. I'd probably plant it in the desert because it needs much more sun, right? So this is already a first point where you get in contact with the real world weather. And this is also like the idea of NFTs growing with the actual weather. And as I said, as well, this is based on a real world map. So in the beginning, you will only have a few places where you can plant your Zeedle. Basically, this is something that we offer to make things easier because we designed some categories to work better in other vegetational zones, let's say. But in the end, in the final game, users will be able to plant a seed wherever they are, and not just where they are, wherever they want it to be on the world, right? So a lot of thought has to go into that. And I think, Thomas, you mentioned it before, every in-game purchase that we do accordingly. For example, if you plant something in the desert, it does need some water from time to time because, there's not enough water probably for your Zeedle to grow. Or, there's a dry, I don't know how that is called in English, like a extended period of sunny weather where rain is getting, increasingly scarce. So you have to purchase some water. And this is exactly those items are, verified on chain, going to those offset projects that are also part of our project, right? So every in-game item that you purchase in order to make up for weather conditions, those are basically contributions to those projects.
So are those projects that the money is going to already on the blockchain? I mean, is that like the money flow that is going from those in-game purchases, is that going to blockchain projects that are doing something with CO2 carbon offsets, or is that something that is donated or going in the real world, transferred as a, I don't know, SEPA transfer or whatever it is?
So in the starting point, like our end goal is that everything is happening on chain because we need this for like a total verifiability that we ourselves, basically take ourselves out of the game as a central entity and a single point of failure, right? How it will start in the beginning is that basically on every sale, you have kind of like a royalty going to an escrow account, which will have those funds, and the escrow account will have multiple signatures, and projects that we add, they will just have one key set on this account so that there's a shared ownership of this account, and that every payout to a project will only happen if that gremium is signing those transactions. In the end, it would be great if those projects would all themselves have those accounts so that we just route them to each of them account. But that means onboarding those NGOs that have way better things to do than learning blockchain, I think right now, onboarding them to have a wallet and all that. So this process is something that we are working on. But yeah, as I said in the beginning, at the very least thing that we can do is have shared ownership of keys and to basically give proof of every carbon offset that we are doing. And by the way, we are working together with the gold standard, like not in an official partnership, but only what we are looking out for projects are only projects that are audited by the gold standard, which is, the most, I think, rigid standard when it comes to carbon offsets, and which is also supporting some UN Sustainable Development Goals by offsetting for those carbon offset credits. Yeah.
I see there was a lot of thought going into this.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry that I interrupted you. Go back to
No.
the user flow. Was a very nice
Perfect,
explanation.
yeah.
Thank you.
So let's go into this user flow, like very briefly. But so how do you start? You get one of our beautiful seed packs from the seed, as you might have already guessed. But when you have one of those seed packs, you have the seed and you plant it in the ground. Ben explained already where you will be able to do this. Then you water it. That's what you asked. You will have to buy water. You will have to invest something into your NFT seeder to be able to grow. Then it hatches into an actual little monster character. It grows, so you level up this little beautiful creature. It's really happy to be able to grow, as you see. So and then So one of the basic game mechanics we came up with are growing recipes. You will need those recipes for a lot of stuff, especially for customizing your seeder. There are almost endless possibilities in the long run, at least, how you will be able to customize your seeder. But let's just say in one of the seed packs, you will find a recipe that says, hey, you can turn your seeder from this beautiful green texture and skin into this shiny blue one. But in order to get to this point, you will have to match a certain kind of weather. And this is again where what Ben already explained, where this real world weather and the knowledge of our climate comes into play, where you really will be, you really have to think about, where do I plant my seeder? Where is the weather situation right for my growing recipe to be successfully applied? And for my seeder, once I planted it into the ground, to hatch again in this beautiful blue kind of texture and color. You will be able to evolve it. You maybe know this from Pokemon, where you start with this little, I don't know the English Pokemon words, but those little creatures, and then they turn into another creature on a certain level. You'll be able to evolve those. And let me just open this up. So this is very very simplified how such an evolution could look like. So you start with the seed pack, you get a seed out of it, you turn it into stage 1, and you can follow the family tree of those seeders and even customize it as you wish. And of course, I already mentioned this, we are creating hundreds and hundreds of beautiful seeders, and this is still only the beginning. So yeah, a lot of stuff here. So Ben, there are 2 types of recipes, right?
Yeah, there are 2 types of recipes. Very shortly, you can basically evolve your seedle, on the vertical axis, meaning that you bring it to another generation, to another stage, or you can customize your existing seedle, giving you, the options if you want to proceed or just keep it at the same level that you already have it. What does our roadmap look like? So we are planning to do a first NFT drop for the very early supporters by the end to January of next year. I think this should say 2022, but that's fine. And by that, we already have a storefront for our NFTs. And by March of 2022, we will have a peer-to-peer marketplace where you can actually sell your seedles. And by the way, there's a royalty fee on selling those seedles. So whenever a seedle gets sold to another person, a certain amount of that is also going to the projects that are offsetting carbon credits. And then in May, you can actually start the growing game, planting a seedle somewhere in the world. And by August, you will have the live gameplay, which, details are to come. And something very interesting, but this would probably be beyond the scope of this call, is we are planning that the seedles are actually producing a kind of token that you can then use again for, you know, in-game purchases, but also other usages, that again, on every transaction of this token, spends like 1% fee to a project that is centered around carbon offsets. So this is something that will go down that avenue once we have the live gameplay ready. So this is our roadmap. So where are we building? Let's get a bit more technical. Sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of I wanted to ask like two things if you go into that. Number one is the real weather. I assume that's coming from an oracle that you either build yourself or use some of the existing services. I'm not sure about that. I'm hoping you can touch on that a little bit more. Is that in the slide somewhere?
It's not yet in there, but it's the main point that you hit on there.
Okay.
So as we get more technical, I think I can combine it with the next slide. So go ahead with your second question, I guess.
And the other question was when you draw a lot of comparison to Pokemon. And I think one of the main things with Pokemon is you can also use them in arenas, I think, right? I actually never played Pokemon. But I think you can use them like to fight against each other or something like that. Is something like that planned with Zeedz? Like any further use case where, like, you know, I grow them, I get them, I grow them, I spend a lot of money investing in them. What is the next thing?
Great question. So this is the actual live gameplay point, which is here mentioned for the middle of next year. We have a beautiful section on our website. I think it's actually called Story. I'm not sure, but we came up with a really nice background story. So those Zeedz in the end are fighting against an evil lord, which is called the Lord CO II from the Disposable Islands. And so the Zeedz will have to team up, like gather with their friends and fight this evil lord who, does nothing else but drinking coffee to go out of plastic straws. I don't know, something like this. You can read the story on our website. It's not actually the Pokemon Arena thing you mentioned, but they will be able to stand together and do something against this lord. Yep.
That's fantastic. It sounds fantastic. Oh, sorry, Benjamin, back to you.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're really trying to get, you know, everyone on board, like that you actually have to do combine things that, again, this is another thought of ours, that there's really a community evolving, a community, you know, around shared values of sustainability. And this is something that we are trying to do. So this is like don't fight against each other, fight against the evil lord. But of course, this should be also fun. Details from the actual gameplay are to follow, but we are working on pretty cool stuff. So I hope that everyone is excited for that. To your question. So basically, starting with that, we are building on Flow. And this is not just because I do work at Dapper Labs, but actually because Flow is in many ways very interesting for Zeedz. For one, and probably the biggest point, it's highly sustainable, not just because it's, you know, a proof of stake blockchain, but also because it has a very interesting architecture. It has a multi-node architecture. You can read up on that on the Flow website, but you know that even helps to be more efficient. So official numbers are to come, but Flow is actually much more sustainable than many other alternatives. So that's something that was just a baseline decisions for us that had to be fulfilled, and we couldn't go to some network that is, you know, proof of work, for example. That was an absolute no-go. And then, of course, scalability. Like other networks, Flow provides great numbers here, great performance numbers, but where it stands out really is the usability. We don't want to make a game that is just for a crypto audience. This is not what we are intending to do. We want to help with Zeedz to get blockchain to the masses, and this is why it has to have a great user experience. And Flow is like in my opinion, the very best blockchain to achieve that, simply because it's super easy to develop on Flow and it's super easy to use Flow as an end user. Speaking of which, you know, the ecosystem that is evolving on Flow already has a mass audience with NBA Top Shot, new products that are coming. Those are products where people actually pay, you know, with credit cards, or let's say, to give us an idea of what kind of people are there. They're mainstream audiences that are not that are making their first steps to crypto, let's say, so this is something that we really want to push forward. And finally, and then I probably stop talking about Flow, but something that is really interesting is Flow developed a new programming language, Cadence, and in Cadence, digital items of value, for example, NFTs, are first-class citizens. They are resources, and resources are a data structure that actually avoid or that impose strict rules on how you can handle them. Remember how you can, in Ethereum smart contracts, for example, well, of course, you check message.sender and then you run your logic. But the problem is that where the money is stored, your balances, your mapping of balances, that's just an arbitrarily mutable data structure. And on Flow, that's a resource, and this cannot be arbitrarily mutated, and it has to be used exactly once. So something like losing resources due to a mistake in your code is highly unlikely, and this is something why we chose Flow. So to your question about the real world weather in the beginning, and this is like the story of whole Zeedz, we are trying to implement it first and then to make it as decentralized as possible. And our end goal is to have an oracle that is pulling in the data from those locations. There are many factors that make this complicated. Like one of them being that you ideally want to have many, many different locations. So this is why in the beginning we just name a few locations, try to verify that. The second challenge is that Flow is currently we are currently not able to use an oracle, but that is something that is in the development. So for the first time being, we actually will have a centralized server. We actually will have, on each call, like on each epoch, let's say, of our seed growing, there will be a call to the Open Weather API, which will return the weather and then turn the weather data into so-called weather tokens that then your seeds can earn. It's a bit complicated where the technical things go into, but basically, we start off by calling just a normal centralized API, and where we want to be ideally by mid-year of 2022 is to have an Oracle-based solution. And hopefully that wasn't too long. Does that answer your question?
No, that was perfect. Yes, it answers my question to a large degree, but it also brings up another question, which has maybe been a misunderstanding on my side. So that Zeedz will not be NFTs on Ethereum; they will be on the Flow blockchain. So you run your own blockchain. Is that correct?
Exactly. Flow is an open blockchain that is there for everyone to use, and we are building on Flow blockchain. Yeah, I mean, ideally, there is already plans of bridges to Ethereum. I mean, ideally, it will be possible to transport your I guess also is a baseline decision to transport them across chains. But yes, we are starting out on Flow. Yeah,
that is perfect. I did not know of Flow before. Thanks to you, I will look into that now. So it's always good to know what's going on out there.
Yeah, I think to do that. I mean, it's just, I think it's a very interesting, I mean, for any developer working on Ethereum, I guess just having reading some things about Cadence, especially the programming language of Flow, and how resources work. Even if you will not end up using Flow, I think the idea behind it is very novel and it's very interesting, and it basically lets you think a bit more about how do we actually structure, our smart contracts, how are valuable resources actually created, handled, and how do we want them to be handled in the future, right? And this is so I highly encourage for any Ethereum developer to check that out, just to get some food for thought, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at Ethereum smart contracts and Solidity, it very much reminds me of a general purpose CPU architecture, whereas some other blockchains very much go into specific use cases that make sure that nothing can go wrong, that shouldn't go wrong. And so I'm very much looking forward to actually look into Flow. I didn't know it existed before, so also everyone out there, go check it out. From your point of view, I mean, you're probably a little bit opinionated, but from your point of view, do you think it's hard to learn Cadence if you already know Solidity? Is there a huge difference? Is it something completely different? Or can you actually benefit if you already know how Ethereum Solidity works?
I think the hard point is only wrapping your head around that things can work different, because when you start off, we all started in the Solidity world. I guess most of us started there, and there's a certain way of how to architect things. And I guess this switch is the harder one. Let's say Cadence itself is super easy to learn, and it's basically like stripped down to only those things that you really need for smart contract programming. But yeah, for example, the idea that how storefronts, for example, work, peer-to-peer marketplaces in Cadence, is that I don't put my resource in some external smart contract, and the people buy it from there. I actually keep it in my account. I do, like, resources are always stored in my personal account. And if I list something for sale, for example, I keep it in my account really until the purchase is happening. So this is something, that is just like messing with your mind a bit when you're starting as an Ethereum developer, which you say, well, where's my central mapping of balances and NFTs? And yeah, so, I mean, yeah, by the way, the person who invented the ERC 721 for CryptoKitties, Dieter Shirley, he's the CTO of Flow, and he designed the Flow architecture. So it very much originated on Ethereum, the idea, and then evolved into a whole different blockchain solution with a whole different architecture, trying to get those learnings to build something better. But of course, I'm opinionated, but I just can encourage, check it out, just to broaden your horizon. The least I can say, it's something very different than you'd expect from smart contract programming on Ethereum, let's say.
That is the most unpushy, opinionated, actually non-opinionated version of go check it out. And I also suggest, I mean, it has a huge name behind it, so it's definitely worth it to be checked out. Even though without the name, I forgot his name, the ERC 721. What's his name?
Dieter.
Yeah,
Deet, sure.
Even without him, I mean, it's clear there's some people behind it who know what they're doing, and alone from what you're telling me, it is worth to be investigated further and actually be used for what it's meant to be. Okay, well, back to Zeedz. Is there anything left?
Not much, but a bit. Yeah.
All right.
We actually, something that anyone can use, anyone who's interested in blockchain sustainability, especially, is we gathered so much, ideas, information on sustainability in the terms of blockchain context. So if you go to our website at zeedz.io/sustainability-guide, we can also provide a link later. You can take a look at our own blockchain sustainability guide, where we basically have 3 categories, how you can analyze any kind of blockchain across those 3 categories: ecosystem, environment, and economy, and try to analyze how sustainable such a project is. So do check that out, even if you're not into Zeedz, if you're not into Flow, but if you're looking for sustainability guidance on blockchains, this is something to get your thoughts going.
Yeah, and so finally, I think this is the last slide we got, right? Yeah, we're looking for family members, obviously. Ben told me to highlight the developer word here, which probably makes sense because we're here. but yeah, just drop us an email, hi@Zeedz. Oh, God damn it. There's some misspelling in the... So don't click on this podcast wherever you watch it. No,
you will find a link in the description below. So make sure to check out the description below under this video to see the correct email address if you can't guess it. I think, is that the hiring criteria to actually fix that yourself? And then and then
I will just go and register seed.io right now.
That's
and come join us and learn cadence, right? So that's also something that might be.
But are you looking primarily for developers, or are you also looking like for still designers or support people or community managers? Like, what is the main goal currently developers, or is that just highlighted because of this interview?
So yeah, it's highlighted because of this podcast. But I think, to be super honest, on the designer section, we are pretty well, like our team is set up pretty well there. If you watch this and you are an outstanding super artist, drop us an email. I mean, it's just an email. We will look at everything and let's talk. But I think developers are definitely the focus, and yeah, we really value the advices of advisors. Yeah, so if you watch this podcast and you feel like, hey, this is my topic, whysoever, yeah, let's talk. So we are not the super environmental specialists. We learned a huge lot in the last month, but yeah, we're happy for input, definitely on all fields.
Yeah, it's a massive topic, and it's a massive topic. There's like, you're trying to bridge very technical stuff with people who are not very technical.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
But basically, also anyone can join at this stage, even if you just like our small cute Zeedles that actually on our Instagram we present them in a regular fashion before you can actually purchase them. And of course, anyone who's early in the ecosystem and does is active in this ecosystem, of course, we will also value those contributions and highly encourage anyone. I mean, even if you're not a developer, if you just want to be part of it, to write us, tell us how you could think of yourself, of helping here. We are open and we want to bring many people to the table. So yeah, let's grow the future together, I guess.
It's fantastic.
Exactly. That's it.
And the Zeedles look very, very cute. I kudos to your designers that did a good job. They look really fantastic. And thanks so much for joining us at Block on Air. Well, I hope there might be a follow-up interview, maybe sometime end of 2022, when everything is live. I can't wait to get my Zeedle. And if you want to know more about this project, find the link in the description below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of those interviews. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks, Benjamin. Thanks, Sven. And have a good day to Hanover. No, not Hanover. Where is it? Mannheim.
Mannheim and Berlin. Yeah.
Mannheim and Berlin.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you,
Thomas.
Bye-bye.